The first thing you notice on a deep December morning is the silence. The wood stove has burned down to glowing embers, and the air in the cabin holds a sharp, biting chill. You step out of bed, floorboards creaking under thick wool socks, and walk toward the utility closet. There, a faint, rhythmic hum tells you the heart of the homestead is still beating. That sound is the off grid solar inverter, working hard to push the last bit of stored energy into the house before dawn. But that hum is fragile right now. We are creeping toward the winter solstice, the shortest, darkest day of the year. The sun barely clears the tree line, casting long, pale shadows across the frozen yard. In June, the panels soaked up 14 hours of blazing light, making power feel infinite. Now we are lucky to get 4 hours. The transition from summer surplus to winter scarcity is a harsh reality check. Living off grid means you cannot just flip a switch and expect the world to bend to your will. You have to bend to the world. When the days grow short, your habits have to shrink to fit the light. It is a profound shift in mindset. You stop viewing electricity as a right and start treating it as a rare harvest. Every watt you pull from the wall is a withdrawal from a limited account, and nature is the only bank teller. You pull on your heavy coat and step out the back door. The cold hits your lungs like glass. Snow crunches under your boots as you trudge out to the array. The panels are covered in a thick layer of frost and a dusting of overnight snow. You take a soft broom and sweep them clean, watching the dark blue silicon emerge against the blinding white landscape. Even a thin layer of snow will completely choke the system, stopping the flow of power instantly. Cleaning them is only the first step. To capture what little light is available, you have to adjust the solar panel angle. In the summer, the panels lay almost flat, staring straight up at the sun, but winter requires a steep tilt. You pull the heavy steel pins and heave the racks upward, locking them in to face the low southern horizon. It is heavy work with frozen fingers, but absolutely vital. Inside the shed sits the lifeblood of the winter homestead. The battery bank capacity is the absolute limit of your world right now. These heavy blocks store the summer sun, but in winter they are constantly on the verge of starvation. You check the digital display. The voltage reads 12.2 volts. The batteries are cold and sluggish, struggling to hold the charge they easily absorbed just months ago. Staring at those numbers brings a unique kind of anxiety. In the modern world, a low battery means plugging in your phone. Out here, a low battery means the water pump stops spinning. It means sitting in darkness. Energy consumption monitoring becomes a daily obsession. You do mental math with every chore, weighing the cost of a hot shower against the need to run the washing machine. You cannot have both. The numbers dictate your day. We learn to triage. The water pump is essential, so it gets priority. The small refrigerator holding our harvest is essential, but the toaster, the electric kettle, and the television are ghosts of a careless past. We pack them away until spring. You quickly realize how much of modern life is just wasted heat and noise. You strip away the excess. Without the constant hum of appliances, you hear the wind in the pines and the crackle of the fire. The rhythm of the day slows down. You stop fighting the darkness and work with it. Instead of flipping on overhead lights, you light a single kerosene lantern on the kitchen table. The soft glow pulls the family together, shrinking the world down to the wood stove. You make coffee in a heavy steel percolator on top of the cast iron stove. The smell of dark roast mixes with wood smoke and damp wool drying by the fire. It takes 3 times as long to brew, but the heat is free. You shift the burden of energy away from the electrical system and onto the thermal mass of the fire, trading convenience for sustainability. The modern world promises endless convenience, but it demands endless consumption to maintain it. Out here, the limits are real, physical, and undeniable. When you accept those limits, the anxiety of scarcity fades into peace. You are no longer trying to conquer the winter months. You are simply surviving alongside them. moving at the deliberate speed of the season. A storm rolls in off the ridge, bringing 3 days of thick gray clouds. The solar array sits useless in the gloom. The battery monitor drops steadily, 12.1 volts, then 12.0 volts. The house grows tense. You start rationing power like water in a desert. Every light is off. The water pump is shut down at the breaker. You carry buckets of water from the creek to flush the toilet. This is the dreaded solar slump. It is the gap between what the system can theoretically do and what the sky actually allows. No matter how many panels you have, 0 times anything is still 0. The batteries dip into the danger zone. If they drop too low, the chemistry inside them will permanently degrade. You walk out to the shed, pull the main disconnect, and plunge the house into total darkness to save the system. Standing in the pitch black cabin, the silence is deafening. The inverter is dead. The hum is gone. It feels like a failure, a harsh reminder that we are entirely at the mercy of the weather. The cold seems to press harder against the windows when the power dies. We huddle around the wood stove, eating cold soup from a can, listening to the wind howl through the eaves. The illusion of control is completely shattered, but the homestead does not stop because the power is out. The animals still need tending. You bundle up and head out into the freezing dark with a single headlamp. Your breath billows in the beam of light as you navigate the icy path to the barn. The work is harder, slower, and colder. Every task takes twice as long without electricity. You feel the weight of the winter in your bones, a heavy, exhausting ache. Then, on the fourth morning, the wind shifts. The heavy clouds fracture, and a blinding beam of sunlight strikes the snow crust. It is a physical relief, a weight lifted off your chest. You rush out to the panels, sweeping away the fresh snow with frantic energy. You run back to the shed and throw the main breaker. The charge controller lights up. The numbers on the screen climb. The mechanical heart of the house starts beating again. The sound of the water pump kicking on is beautiful music. The pipes shudder, and fresh, cold well water rushes from the kitchen faucet. You wash your hands, feeling the icy blast against your skin, grateful for the simple miracle of pressure. The house warms up, not just from the fire, but from the return of light and capability. The tension drains out of your shoulders. You survived the slump, and the system held together. The rest of the winter settles into a careful dance. We watch the sky like sailors watching the sea. A clear forecast means a day of heavy chores. We run the washing machine, vacuum the rugs, and charge every tool in the shed while the sun is high. We gorge on the temporary abundance, packing the batteries full before the sun dips below the trees at 4 in the afternoon. We strike while the sun shines. When the dark returns, we retreat. We accept the evening with grace. The frantic energy of the summer harvest is a distant memory. Winter is for rest, for reading, for repairing tools by the fire. The scarcity of power forces us to stop moving, to sit still, and to be present with each other. The lack of electricity becomes a boundary that protects our time, keeping the endless demands of the outside world firmly at bay. We realize that the struggle was never really about the equipment. It was about our expectations. We came out here expecting to build a perfect, uninterrupted system. But perfection is a fragile thing. Resilience is messy. It requires adaptation. It requires you to be uncomfortable, to be cold, and to be humbled by the sheer force of the natural world. True self reliance is not about having endless power, it is about needing less of it. You sit in the rocking chair listening to the fire crackle. The single lamp casts long shadows across the rough hewn log walls. A dog sleeps heavily on the braided rug, twitching in a dream. Outside, the temperature plunges towards 0, but inside, the air is thick with heat and the smell of roasting root vegetables. The battery monitor glows faintly in the distance, holding steady at a safe, comfortable voltage as the night deepens. The system holds because we finally learned its language. We learned to read the clouds, the angle of the shadows, and the subtle hum of the inverter. We stopped demanding that the battery bank perform like a municipal grid and started treating it like a living partner on this homestead. When it is tired, we let it rest. When it is full, we put it to work. It is a relationship built on deep respect for natural limits. And then, almost without noticing, the turning point arrives. You wake up one morning and realize the sun is hitting the kitchen window just a little bit earlier. The shadows on the snow are a fraction shorter. The winter solstice is behind us. The earth is tilting back toward the light. The charge controller clicks on 10 minutes earlier than it did the week before. It is a tiny victory, but after months of darkness, it feels monumental. You step outside on that first noticeably longer day, feeling the faint warmth of the sun on your face. The snowpack is still deep, but the air smells different, carrying the distant promise of spring thaw. You brush a thin layer of frost off the panels one last time, knowing the hardest part of the year is finally behind you. Managing off-grid solar power during the winter months is more than a survival tactic. It is a profound teacher that strips away the illusions of modern convenience, forcing you to live deliberately and intentionally with the rhythms of the earth. In that struggle against the cold and the dying light, you find something incredibly rare. You find the quiet, unshakable confidence of a life built with your own two hands. You find the truest form of freedom,